saddled with the responsibility of ensuring lives and property are safe from natural disasters. The National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, was established in 1999 to function as an agency to formulate policies relating to disaster management, monitor state of preparedness against disaster, provision of relief materials to disaster victims in Nigeria, among many other functions. To this end, the agency is now calling on relevant bodies to get prepared for the rains in 2023 as it warns that some high level of devastation. This was made known by the Director General of NEMA, Mustafa Mohammed, at an appearance before the Senate Committee on Special Duties to defend his agency's 2023 budget. In his presentation, he lamented that early warnings given to the states in 2022 by the agency were ignored, leading to destructive effects on all the affected areas. The devastation witnessed in 2022 was one too disturbing, and if mitigation against this year's prediction is not given a proper attention, the resulting effects as preempted might be overwhelming. The devastation witnessed in 2022 was too disturbing, and if mitigation against this year's prediction is not given a proper attention, the results, as preempted by the agency, might be overwhelming. The focus of the program Nigeria Today is the warning of NEMA to what is to be expected this year as the rain sets. It's teaching time, they say. Safe night. This is Nigeria Today. I am Victoria Clinton. Welcome to With me in the studio is Elisa Ndejibe, Director of Operational Hydrology, Nigeria Hydrological Services Agency, NISA. Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
I'm also joining us is Dr. Yusuf Abdullahi, former General Manager for the State Environmental Protection Authority, HEPA. Glad to have you with us.
Thank you for having me.
Director, as a director operating, I think you give us a situation report from this year's flooding situation. Recently, that was sometime late last year, NIMET predicted that the rains would be coming early this year. And now again, you see NEMA warning that the flooding this year, if not taken care of, it might even be worse than that of last year. We wouldn't want a repeat of that. So give us a situation report.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, and the Nigerian Hydrological Services Agency on the 17th of February 2023, we released our annual flood outlook by the Minister for Water Resources. And the general scenario was given, that is, there are high flood probable areas, and from our predictions we have about 178 local government areas in Nigeria covering 32 states and the FCT for high probable flood risk areas. And we have those we term as moderate flood risk areas. We have about 224 local governments cutting across 35 states and the FCT. And we have the low probable flood related areas, which covers about 372 local governments. So these are the general scenario as predicted by NISA.
Okay. Now, we are here the other time on this program when we talked about the NIMET prediction, and of course you read out a lot of things that should be there. Just tell us, what should the relevant agencies be doing to ensure we don't have a repeat of last year's incident?
Yes, fortunately this year we've had the projections very early and they are near accurate. Already it's raining today. Yes. Today is the 6th of March and they predicted that the rains are going to come in early, and certainly the rains have started very early. But the question is, those authorities or those individuals and personalities that are responsible for flood mitigation action, are they really prepared for flash flood events? The answer, I believe, is no. No. At the top of the hierarchy, you have the federal government agencies doing, the best that they can to offer warnings, projections and what have you. But then the state and local government are still sleeping. And I don't believe that our local government are prepared for any action against flash flood events. And that probably will be responsible for a repeat of what had happened in the previous years. Ideally, it shouldn't have been so, but I haven't seen any sign at the level of any local government, at the level of any community or citizen to say that we are fully prepared against this kind of eventuality.
So, what, in your opinion, should the local government be doing, in preparation of, this flood as it concerns the warning?
Yes. Just now what we read out is NEMA, dishing out warnings. But if you don't have off-takers at the community level of this particular one, there is nothing that you can do. Preparedness cannot be done at federal level. It cannot be done at state level. You can provide maybe the basic framework at federal and state level, but the real action that has to be taken against flash flood, it has to be taken at community level. We don't see communal action, even in terms of, desilting drains. You don't see communal action. You don't see individual cleaning their water wells, the water canals and the gutters, things like that. Nobody is taking action in that regard. Everybody is just listening to the prediction. Yes, they sound very beautiful to the air until something, happened. And what we ought to have been doing by now is to ensure that the local government are fully prepared. Citizens are fully prepared to take action. What we want is action. No more noise. The noise has been done. The prediction has been made. The information has been disseminated. Just like we are doing now, you can see NEMA has already disseminated information that, look, this threat is real. It's no longer, a joke. But are the states taking it seriously? No. There is no state agency that has disbursed money right now to communities to go and clear the drains, the waterways and the canals. We are not seeing action along that way. We are not seeing something, what I can call a drill, something that agencies responsible, in preparedness against flash floods, they should come together and simulate what they ought to be doing when this thing happens. You don't see any kind of simulation anywhere. You don't see any movement of materials. You don't see anybody approving any budget, for preparedness. Maybe my colleague will buttress my point. I doubt if they have been given this money, how much they have been given for them to be able to issue some of these projections. Yes, it's small money when you compare to the cost of preparedness and the cost of relief materials. But in our society, we always prefer to, put our budget in relief materials rather than in prevention of some of these flash flood events. We need mitigations, we need adaptations, we need to put in appropriate safeguards to ensure that communities and citizens are protected. But right now, as I mentioned, these safeguards, mitigations and adaptations are not in place. I'm not sure that you've even seen it. You as NTA, you've seen any local government that is fully prepared against such eventuality. No.
Okay, apart from the predictions and the warnings, what it needs are doing actually, just like we talked about, there's nothing seen being done at regards preparation, because you don't wait for the flood to meet you before you do something. So you ought to, start preparing, just like you rightly said. So what it needs are doing?
Well, as an organization, we have also a limit, statutorily. Our own is to predict, and after the prediction, to disseminate the information to them, to them. Now, on our own part, like he said, this is the earliest ever. So 17 February, like I said, we have done our own predictions. We have released it. We assented to. And also, we are doing our dissemination. This is also one of the way of disseminating information out. On our own capacity, we have our own early warning systems. We have gone around all the countries and installed them and check, rehabilitate some that have been inundated. And at our own agency level, we have done that. And what we intend to do is also to call the governors. We also send this, I have a copy here, to all the state governors so that they can also disseminate to the local governments. We partner with Nigerian National Orientation Agency that breaks this, our report down into different Nigerian languages and also to the people. But we agree to some extent with him in the level of preparedness. And it's obvious and it's circumstantial in the sense that we know the period we are in. Nobody wants to listen to anything now except election, this kind of thing. So that is what is paramount in the people's mind. Forgetting that the rain is coming now and the flood may likely also come. So it's not in their psyche now, it's election. But if it's not an election year, okay. By now, of course, there are movements, it's in that, fuel situations and things like that. So for me, NISA as an agency have done its own statutory parts. And we are still continuing to do it. Then for the populace, local government especially, because it is flood is community-based. You see me talking about how many local governments. And people are there. Those who are also in the riverine areas, the floodplains area. Flood comes every year. So because of this, that's why, Mr. President, I've also inaugurated, I'm sure you're aware of that, a presidential committee to draft, an action plan to mitigate the effect of flooding permanently in Nigeria. And that committee is up and running, and they have concluded their report they are writing to submit to Mr. President, so that when those things are taken care of holistically, flood is just too much water, which can be channeled, and like I said, to other usages. Like in Netherlands, I studied there, and the country, that's why it's called Netherlands, the land beneath the water. Lagos is 3 degrees above mean sea level. Netherlands is 3 degrees below mean sea level. The whole place is supposed to be flooded and submerged. But they drain the water and form canals all over the country and use the canal for irrigations and agricultural purposes and strengthen and sustain the land. So if all land can do that, we can also do that much more. So I think the Presidential Committee, not preempting them, they are looking at all these things holistically. So to answer your question straight, that the level of preparedness, I also agree, that is very, very low.
Okay. He has rightly mentioned that we are in the electioneering period. Everybody is thinking about election. But the truth is, when the chips are down, when these floods come, nobody will be thinking about election.
Yes, I think probably INEC has done the risk assessment, on the possible impact of these flash floods, on their own activity. Because any area that is flooded, certainly there won't be any election. And I think we need to start thinking in that regards and give it a more serious consideration.
So what should the citizens be doing right now, especially for those of them that are living within the flood-prone areas? What should they be doing now?
In a way, I think it's a bit too late because the rains they've already started. But then where you are, if you feel that you are under the threat of flood, just continue to do what you have been doing before. When the rains are coming and they are beyond your control, move away from the areas at risk. That is simply what citizens have to do. And then if you can't actually move, then you ask for help. That is why we have government agencies. There are government agencies that have been designated to offer assistance to people at risk of flash flood events. And one of them, as you rightly mentioned, is NEMA. So, but we have to move away because NEMA is a federal agency. Every state has an agency that is dedicated to emergency situation, and every local government has a desk office. They have a desk office that is dedicated to emergency situations. These the desk officers, and desk offices, they have to be activated in such a way that they will be capable of responding to emergency flash flood events. That is what we have to do as of now.
Okay, now you talked about you studying in Netherlands and seeing certain things that are being done there. What are some of them that you think that should be done, can use the waters to our own advantage?
Yeah, and like I said, flood is in a simple layman language. It's just too much water. In Nigeria, we are talking about flood, too much water, where there are places also looking for this water. So what simply have to be done is that there are, I'm not talking about flash floods now. Flash floods are just when there are precipitation, high precipitation, maybe rainfall in an area, block drainages, they don't have access to pass, then it causes flooding. But I'm talking now about river flooding. Whether we like it or not, every year there will be river flooding. There will be. There are floodplains, there are rivers there. Like the flood of 2012 was caused, of course, largely by the release of water from Lagdo Dam in Cameroon. But that also, the release of water from the dam is also caused by the precipitation, heavy rainfall there. So instead of them being, like he said, instead of being submerged, they have to quickly release the water so that they can remain stable. So, and I don't blame them, because we also have to build our own buffer dam. And that is one major solution for that particular threat from the Cameroon side. Because two things cause flood in Nigeria. Either the release from Lagdo Dam that flooded Benue, basin, Benue River Basin, or heavy precipitation, a rainfall, so much within a short period of time. These are the two reasons why there are floods in Nigeria. But that one the one from Lagdo Dam, simple. We can build our own buffer dam, which of course is everybody knows that by now. That when Lagdo Dam was built, we are also asked to build a buffer dam. And I think about 34 years down the lane now, we have not. But I'm praying that maybe a government will come that will take that serious, because it's one of the major ways to contain the water, store it, use it for agricultural purposes, irrigation and things in that area. Then for the flash floods, simple, is blockage of drainage systems and collapse of drainage systems. Like he said, nobody as of now, by this time last year, Lagos State have been cleaning drainages. But now they don't even, it's election, like I said, that is in the mind of people. So comparatively, NEMA is the only organization that can say they are a bit ready, even up to the local and states. They have mobilized, they have taken our predictions, look at that's how they do, disseminate it and begin to prepare. But we always, every time we say that prevention is better than cure. NEMA comes as a relief, but out of lives that have been lost, we can't get them back. Even the homes and everything that are lost, it's just a little that is being given to them, not even holistically. So I believe that we should pay more attention to prevention. And one of the way for this is to take care of our dams. That is there. We make, their siltation have occurred over time. So the carrying capacity of our dam has been reduced drastically. That's number one. So just like river dredging, then desilt our dams, then build this buffer dam. So with this, but in the presidential committee, they have looked at all these things and they are going to soon present to the Mr. President for action.
Okay, he's mentioned quite a lot of things that ought to be done. But then, again, I know as much as we look at flood, we only see the devastating effect. There are also some advantage. We talked about dam, we talked about also in agriculture. I know water, we need the water for farming. So how can we, channel this to help in their increasing,
Food production.
Given food production, and of course, at the end of the day, we have food security.
I always give an example of Egypt. the Egyptian history, the whole society was developed around float events in the Nile Valley. That is where they grow their food, that is where they build their homes, that is where they carry out their life. Their whole lifestyle is dependent on float. But here we have been endowed by nature, but unfortunately we're short of green vision. Even when you look at our leadership, it's like there is a communication gap between the environmental experts and the political leadership. And it shouldn't have been so, because environmental intelligence is native in people. You don't have to be taught on how to manage water for the benefit of mankind.
So there should be more collaboration between the government.
Well, we first need to acknowledge that one, this is our country, and this rain, water, is a natural endowment, not a potential source of disaster. Once we recognize the water as a natural endowment, then we need to develop a green vision out of that. How do we improve our socio-economic situation with that water? Water is important in agriculture. Water is important in public health. Water is important in transportation. Water is very important in everything that we do. And for us to be able to factor this, we need to assemble the native intelligence. That is to say that we need to ask our grandparents, how have they been surviving? Even before Lagdo Dam, float events were frequent. But how are our people dealing with those issues? We are not telling ourselves. Every day we want to rush to Netherlands. We can never be Netherlands. We can never be Netherlands. Nigeria is Nigeria, and Nigeria will continue to be inhabited by Nigerians. And until we recognize that God put us here for a purpose, and He has given us all the intellectual capacity to utilize our natural endowment for our own benefit, we will continue to suffer from something that ought to benefit us. Because this water, as he rightly mentioned, it is a blessing. Some countries are looking for water. Just one rainfall event in 365 days. Because we have seen it in UAE, some part of UAE, Dubai. When it rained, some places they don't see rain for the entire year, 365 days. But here it has started. This is the second rainfall in Abuja.
So some people even pray for the rain.
So we are praying for this. Some people are praying, seriously praying for it. And then a small flash flood, we cannot control. Yes, in the case of Germany, in the case of Turkey, in the case of Pakistan, this is one event probably in half a century. But there is no reason why we should be talking about flood every year. Flood. Then what it means is that as long as we continue doing things the same way, then the result will ultimately be the same. So we have to change, the outlook, the way we look at ourselves. We have to change the way we look at our natural endowments. We have to develop a green vision out of this the water that causes flash flood, and begin to use the water to add value to various aspects of our lifestyle. I believe that is the way forward. And in doing that, as I always mention, that the federal government agencies, they always have money, they have big offices, they have fat budgets, they can afford to give out the projections, they can afford to give out the warning. But if you go to a local government headquarters in a place like Sapele or Ilela, and you ask the environmental desk officers, what have they been doing for the past year? I doubt if they are going to mention anything about flood mitigation, flood prevention, and flood safeguards. They may not be able to tell you all these things. And these are people that move from house to house, checking and ensuring that environmental safeguards are actually there and they are actually working. If you don't clear your drain, the drain right beside your house, who is going to inspect your house? Who is going to enforce the law on you? Nobody can do that. The local governments are the ones to do that. Even in the state, from my own experience in Kaduna, I can assure you, there is no state government agency that can move house to house, that can cover more than 2 million houses within a month. No, there is no state government that can do that. But local government, they have that capacity to do it. Let's empower them and see the kind of result we can get.
So let's talk quickly about the human activities. You see people building houses on waterways. Even the drainages, he rightly mentioned that they are not clearing the drainages. So don't we have laws, you know, that will that can forbid offenders, you know, deter them from engaging in all these activities? So how can we enforce these laws to discourage offenders?
That's the right word, enforcement, and that's where the problem lies. I think it's only in FCT to some greater extent that tries to do that, enforcement. So without that, other states and local governments, they are doing nothing. The greatest challenge is those who are building and living in the floodplain. It's so clear and clear, and you keep on telling them year in year out, this is their ancestral home, ancestral land, nobody can move them and everything. Of course, some of them are washed their way and they do this every year, but yet they will come back. So what? We have done what we can do. Human being is human being.
I believe your agency has done their mandate.
Yes.
But the mandate of governance is the challenge of our political leadership. Because if people refuse to move away from their ancestral land, it's the duty of the political leadership to give them the right alternative. There's something called sustainable or affordable housing.
Yes.
It's not something that your agency can deliver.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Well, that's it on Nigeria Today. But before we go, we want to thank our guests. Olufemi Bejide, Director of Operational Hydrology, Nigeria Hydrological Services Agency, NISA. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
And also Dr. Yusuf Abdullahi Rigasa, former General Manager, Kaduna State Environmental Protection Authority, KEPA. Thank you very much for your contribution.
Thank you for having me.
And also to you, a viewer, thank you very much for always being there. Don't forget, Nigeria Today air weekdays at 7:30 p.m. on NTA News 24. You can watch this and other episodes on www.youtube.com/NTA News 24 Hub. Once again, thank you for watching. I'm your carrier, Clinton. Goodbye.